There comes a moment in life when you realize you're not who you want to be. You look in the mirror and see a version of yourself that's been shaped by comfort, excuses, and fear. That's the day everything changes, because that's the day you decide to break what's holding you back, even if it means breaking yourself first. See, growth doesn't come from adding more. It comes from tearing down the walls that keep you small. And the truth is, before you can rebuild yourself into something powerful, you must be willing to face the destruction of who you used to be. There's a point in every person's life where they wake up and realize, this isn't me. Not the life I imagined, not the habits I promised I'd build, not the person I said I'd become. And it hits you, not like a whisper, but like a storm. You see, it's not life that breaks you, it's the realization that you've been living beneath your potential for far too long. That's when I knew something had to give. And what had to give was me. The comfort, the pride, the illusion that I'm fine. I had to shatter the old patterns that made me predictable, lazy, and safe. Because nothing grows inside a comfort zone. You don't rebuild your life while holding on to the very pieces that broke you. You rebuild by breaking them again, this time with purpose. When I hit my breaking point, I learned something powerful. There's a certain moment in every person's life where you stop pretending that things are fine. You stop trying to convince yourself that your life will magically change while you keep doing the same things, thinking the same thoughts, and living the same patterns. That's the breaking point. It's not always dramatic. It doesn't always come with a loud crash or a public failure. Sometimes it's quiet, like a whisper inside your soul saying, this isn't who I'm supposed to be. And in that moment, something inside you begins to fracture. The false sense of control, the illusions of comfort, the stories you've told yourself to justify where you are, they all begin to crack. You start to see the truth you've been avoiding, that your comfort zone is not your friend, it's your cage. You realize that the very things you've been protecting are the reasons you haven't grown. Most people run from that moment. They call it burnout, stress, or bad luck. But in reality, it's life giving you a gift. The gift of awareness. The gift of clarity. The breaking point isn't the end. It's the doorway to a new beginning. Because you cannot rebuild what you haven't first torn down. You can't step into a stronger version of yourself while clinging to the old, weaker one. Something has to give. Something has to be broken. It might be your pride. It might be your ego. It might be the old belief that you're not capable of more. Whatever it is, you have to be willing to let it break. You see, growth demands sacrifice. Everyone says they want to change, but not everyone is willing to give up what that change requires. They want success, but they also want comfort. They want freedom, but they also want security. They want transformation, but they don't want to face the pain that comes with it. The truth is, transformation begins when the old version of you can no longer survive in the new life you desire. You can't move forward carrying all that old weight. You can't build new habits with an old mindset. You can't chase a bigger dream while still protecting your fears. At some point, you'll find yourself standing at a crossroads. One path leads to the familiar, the safe, the predictable life you already know. The other path leads into the unknown, the place where everything you've ever wanted lives, but it demands a price. And that price is breaking. Breaking your routines, breaking your excuses, breaking your need to be comfortable. It's painful, but necessary, because until you confront your breaking point, you will always settle for less. There's a strange paradox about breaking. It feels like loss, but it's actually growth in disguise. It feels like falling apart, but it's really falling into alignment. When life breaks you, it's not because it's cruel, it's because it's preparing you. It's teaching you what no book or lecture can teach: humility, resilience, patience, and the power of persistence. You start to see that every time you were rejected, every time you failed, every time you were misunderstood, it wasn't life trying to hurt you. It was life trying to awaken you. It was the universe shaking you and saying, wake up. You're meant for more than this. But to reach that more, You must first stop fighting the breaking. You must stop avoiding it. The temptation is always to patch yourself up quickly, to cover the cracks, to pretend you're okay. But every time you do that, you miss the opportunity to rebuild properly. When you break, don't rush to repair. Sit in it. Learn from it. Let it teach you what needs to go. Let it reveal what was weak so you can strengthen it. Let it strip away what was false so you can rebuild with truth. Because the deeper the breaking, the stronger the foundation you can lay afterward. People often think strength is about holding everything together. But real strength is the courage to fall apart when it's time. It's the courage to admit, this version of me is no longer working. It's the willingness to say, I need to unlearn, to let go, to change. The greatest leaders, the most disciplined minds, the most fulfilled people have all walked through that breaking. They didn't get stronger by pretending. They got stronger by facing the truth about themselves. And that truth isn't always pretty. It exposes your laziness, your fears, your broken commitments. But once you face it, you're free. It's easy to talk about growth when things are comfortable. But real growth begins when you're standing in front of the mirror, realizing you've been lying to yourself. You've been waiting for the perfect time, the right motivation, or the right circumstances. You've been saying, someday. And that's when you finally break. Not because of what life did to you, but because of what you didn't do for yourself. That's when the excuses lose their power. That's when you realize that the only thing standing between who you are and who you want to be is your willingness to change. Breaking yourself doesn't mean destroying your worth. It means destroying your limits. It means breaking the patterns that have kept you average, breaking the distractions that steal your focus, breaking the self-talk that convinces you you're not enough. Every time you decide to face what's uncomfortable, you're breaking the chains that hold you back. Every time you say no to old habits, you're taking your power back. And slowly, piece by piece, you begin to reshape yourself into someone unrecognizable, stronger, wiser, and more disciplined than ever before. The truth is, no one becomes great without first being broken. Every breakthrough begins with a breakdown. Every powerful story begins with struggle. Every masterpiece starts as a mess. The people you admire didn't wake up one day transformed. They faced the breaking point and decided not to run from it. They leaned into it. They let the pain teach them. They let the discomfort refine them. They didn't see breaking as the end, but as the beginning of becoming. So if you're at that point right now, if you feel like things are falling apart, if you're tired of pretending, if you're ready for more, then understand this: your breaking point is not your failure. It's your calling. It's the part of your story where the old you starts to fade and the real you begins to emerge. It's the moment where your excuses lose their voice and your potential finally gets its turn to speak. And when that happens, when you finally stop resisting the breaking and start embracing it, you'll realize that what felt like the end was actually the moment life started handing you the tools to build something far greater than what you lost. Once you've broken through the illusions that held you, the real work begins, the rebuilding. And that's the part most people never prepare for. They think the moment of realization is the hardest part, but the truth is, the breaking is just the beginning. The quiet work of rebuilding, day after day, without applause, without shortcuts, is where transformation really happens. Because once the old version of you has been stripped away, there's no comfort left to hide behind. There's no one to blame. There's just you, your choices, and the discipline to start from the ground up. Rebuilding isn't glamorous. It doesn't feel exciting most days. It's not fueled by bursts of motivation or waves of inspiration. It's built on small, repetitive actions, the kind that seem insignificant while you're doing them. But those small disciplines, stacked one upon another, become the foundation of who you're becoming. It's the early mornings when you don't feel like moving, the quiet moments of study when no one is watching, the honest self-talk when you're tempted to slip back into old ways. That's where your new self is being formed, not in grand gestures, but in ordinary moments. Motivation might start the process, but it's discipline that keeps it alive. Motivation is like a spark. It lights up the fire for a moment, but it fades quickly. Discipline, on the other hand, is the wood that keeps the fire burning. Discipline doesn't depend on emotion. It depends on decision. It's the daily agreement you make with yourself that says, no matter how I feel, I'll show up. It's choosing structure over comfort, consistency over excuses, growth over ease. The rebuilding of your life is nothing more than a series of disciplined choices made every single day. You begin to understand that greatness is not about intensity, it's about consistency. Anyone can work hard for a day. Anyone can feel inspired for a week. But the people who truly rebuild themselves are the ones who choose discipline long after the excitement fades. They understand that small disciplines, done daily, are worth more than big dreams spoken loudly. It's easy to talk about change. It's much harder to live it. Because living it requires discipline, and discipline demands sacrifice. You have to sacrifice who you are for who you want to become. You have to trade short-term comfort for long-term strength. Discipline is what separates wishful thinking from actual transformation. It's the bridge between the life you have and the life you want. Every time you choose to follow through on a promise you made to yourself, you strengthen that bridge. Every time you break that promise, the bridge weakens. The person you become depends entirely on how many of those small promises you keep. You can't rebuild a powerful life while constantly breaking your own word. Integrity with yourself is the foundation of discipline. If you say you'll do it, do it. If you commit to a goal, keep walking toward it, even when no one is watching. That's how you rebuild, not through dramatic changes, but through quiet, disciplined persistence. The truth about discipline is that it feels difficult in the beginning, but freeing in the end. Most people live the opposite way. They choose what's easy now and end up paying for it later. They pick comfort, and comfort quietly erodes their potential. Discipline, on the other hand, asks for effort up front, but gives you strength, clarity, and confidence in return. It teaches you control. It teaches you patience. It teaches you that you can trust yourself again. And that's one of the most powerful feelings in the world. To know that when you say you'll do something, you actually will. When you start rebuilding, you'll notice that discipline doesn't shout. It whispers. It whispers every morning when your alarm goes off and you're tempted to sleep in. It whispers when you're faced with a distraction and you know you have work to do. It whispers when your emotions tell you to quit, but your purpose tells you to keep going. Those whispers are opportunities to prove to yourself that the breaking wasn't for nothing. You didn't go through all that pain just to stop halfway. Discipline is the proof that you learned from the breaking. Rebuilding through discipline is also about understanding the process. You're not going to feel progress every day. Some days it'll look like nothing is changing, like your effort is wasted. But that's the deception of early growth. It happens beneath the surface, where you can't yet see it. Just like a seed takes time to break through the soil, your results will take time to show. But that's why discipline matters. Discipline is what keeps you watering the seed, even when you don't see it growing. It's the faith that the process is working, even when the evidence hasn't appeared yet. You start to realize that rebuilding is a lonely path at times. The crowd that cheered when you talked about change might disappear when you actually start living it. People get uncomfortable watching you grow because it reminds them of their own stagnation. But that's when discipline becomes your companion. You no longer need validation from others. You stop waiting for someone to motivate you. You stop chasing external approval. You do the work because you decided it's who you are now. That's the power of discipline. It turns effort into identity. It transforms action into character. Every day, the process demands that you make choices. Choices between what's easy and what's right. Between what feels good now and what builds strength later. Between the old self that seeks comfort and the new self that seeks progress. Every choice adds up. You begin to see that the life you're rebuilding is nothing more than a reflection of your daily disciplines. You become what you repeatedly do. If you practice excuses, you become limited. If you practice consistency, you become unstoppable. Rebuilding also requires patience. It's tempting to want instant results. You want to see proof that your effort is paying off, but discipline teaches you to detach from the outcome and focus on the process. You stop asking, how long will this take? And start asking, how far can I go if I don't quit? You learn to find satisfaction not in finishing, but in growing. You stop chasing the feeling of arrival and start appreciating the journey of becoming. There will be days when your old habits call you back. They'll whisper promises of ease, of comfort, of the old normal. That's when you remind yourself the old normal is what broke you. The easy path is what kept you average. And you didn't come this far just to be who you used to be. Every moment of resistance is a test, and discipline is how you pass it. You keep going not because it's easy, but because it's worth it. When you build through discipline, you stop needing the world to change for you. You stop waiting for ideal conditions. You realize that discipline gives you power, the power to create your own momentum, to build your own structure, to design your own growth. The world no longer controls you because you've learned to control yourself. And that, more than anything else, is what rebuilding truly means. It's not just about changing what you do, it's about mastering who you are becoming. Each act of discipline reinforces your new identity. Each small decision to keep going becomes a brick in the foundation of the person you're building. Over time, the noise fades, the doubt weakens, and the habits take over. What once felt hard becomes automatic. What once seemed impossible becomes normal. That's when you start to realize that the person you were is gone, and the person you're becoming is finally strong enough to carry the life you've always wanted. There comes a time in every person's journey when they realize that the biggest thing standing in the way of who they want to become is who they used to be. The version of you that clings to old habits, old fears, old stories, and old ways of thinking cannot coexist with the version of you that's trying to rise. It's like trying to plant new seeds in soil that's never been cleared. You can't grow something new while the old roots are still choking the ground. Becoming your best self begins with one difficult truth. You must let go of who you were. You must be willing to release the identity that kept you safe but small, comfortable but unfulfilled, familiar but unfree. Letting go isn't easy because the old you feels known. You know how to live as that person. You know their excuses, their patterns, their limitations. The old you gives you a sense of control, even if that control is over a life you don't want anymore. That's why people stay stuck. They keep repeating the same cycles because it feels safer than stepping into the unknown. They keep saying, "That's just who I am," as if that's a life sentence instead of a story they can rewrite. The truth is, you can't build a new chapter if you keep rereading the last one. There comes a day when you have to close the book and start writing something new. The process of becoming demands separation. It demands that you distance yourself from the version of you that can't carry the weight of your future. The habits that once brought you comfort now become obstacles. The people who once fit into your old story may no longer belong in your new one. The thoughts that once justified your inaction now sound like lies. Everything that was built to sustain the old you must be reevaluated, because every part of your life is either serving your future or protecting your past, and you can't hold both at the same time. The hardest part is that letting go feels like loss, even when it's liberation. It feels like death, even though it's actually rebirth. You'll feel resistance. You'll miss the old routines, the old environment, the old certainty. There will be moments when your mind tries to pull you back, whispering that maybe you were better off before. That's the old identity fighting for survival. It doesn't want to die quietly. It wants to keep you comfortable, predictable, and safe. But you can't heal in the same environment that made you sick. You can't become new while defending what's broken. When you start to let go, you begin to experience the space between who you were and who you're becoming. That space feels uncomfortable. It feels empty. It's the space where most people turn back because they confuse discomfort with danger. But discomfort isn't danger. It's proof that you're changing. It's the sign that your old self no longer fits. Think about it like this. When you outgrow your old clothes, it doesn't mean something's wrong, it means you've grown. The same applies to your life. Growth will always make the old things feel tight, awkward, and out of place. That's how you know it's time to let them go. Letting go also means forgiving yourself for who you used to be. You can't move forward while carrying the weight of regret. You did what you knew how to do at that time. You made the choices that matched your level of awareness, your level of courage, your level of understanding. And that's okay. What matters now is that you're aware enough to change. Guilt keeps you tied to the past, but grace allows you to build the future. You can't rebuild your life while resenting yourself for the ruins. You have to forgive the old you for what they didn't know and thank them for getting you this far. Because without that version, you wouldn't be standing at the door of transformation now. As you let go of your past self, you begin to notice how much of your old identity was built around survival instead of purpose. The old you was trying to make it through the day. The new you wants to create something meaningful out of it. The old you cared about being liked. The new you cares about being aligned. The old you sought validation. The new you seeks growth. That's the transition. It's not about becoming someone different. It's about becoming who you were meant to be before fear, doubt, and opinion got in the way. You start to see that the process of becoming is not about adding more to your life. It's about removing what no longer belongs. It's not about improving your old self. It's about transforming into your true self. You're not fixing the old foundation. You're building a new one. That's why it feels painful at first. Because transformation doesn't just upgrade your life, it dismantles it. It breaks the patterns, challenges the beliefs, and disrupts the routines that kept you safe. But in that disruption, you find freedom. As you release the old version of yourself, you'll face tests. Life will tempt you to go back. Old opportunities will reappear, disguised as comfort. Old people will return, asking you to be who you were. Old habits will whisper that no one will notice if you slip just once. That's when you must remember why you started this process in the first place. You didn't break yourself down just to rebuild the same version again. You're not doing this to go back to familiar pain. You're doing this to build unfamiliar strength. Every test is asking the same question. Are you ready to stop being who you were? The longer you walk this path, the lighter you become. You begin to detach from the need to prove anything. You stop explaining your growth to people who only understand your past. You stop chasing validation from those who never saw your potential. You start to realize that not everyone can come with you, and that's okay. The journey of becoming is often a solitary one, because becoming your best self requires silence, focus, and intention. You can't hear your higher calling if you're still surrounded by the noise of your old world. Every time you let go of something that no longer aligns with your purpose, you create space for something better to enter. You let go of toxic habits and find clarity. You let go of distractions and find direction. You let go of old doubts and find confidence. You let go of control and find peace. The space you create becomes the soil where your future grows. That's the paradox of transformation. The more you release, the more you receive. As the new version of you begins to take shape, you'll look back and realize that the letting go wasn't loss at all. It was refinement. You didn't lose anything essential. You shed what was unnecessary. You didn't abandon your past. You honored it by evolving beyond it. You didn't destroy yourself. You uncovered your truth. The person you were was only a chapter, not the whole story. You're not betraying them by growing. You're completing their work. They survived so you could live. They learned so you could rise. They struggled so you could become. Letting go of who you were isn't rejection. It's recognition. It's recognizing that you've reached the edge of one season and the beginning of another. It's acknowledging that you're no longer defined by old mistakes, old labels, or old expectations. It's the realization that you can't stay small just because others remember you that way. It's the courage to say, that was me, but it's not me anymore. And in that moment, the process of becoming truly begins. Because once you release the old identity, you're free to create a new one, built not on fear but on faith, not on the past but on possibility. That's the power of transformation. It's not about becoming someone different. It's about finally becoming who you were always meant to be.